Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes. This is Grand Arena, the first match of Week 2, Season 34. Hopefully this time we get a good record. We're on multiple attempts now of trying to get this to work. We are starting this week off in Kyber 3, and I'm sick of being down here. Usually we're bouncing back and forth between Kyber 2. We're spending an extra week down here in Kyber 3 because I was goofing off too much last week. We're going to rectify that and get back up, hopefully, and try and win out. We might take winning out the week. I think we're getting like 30 skill per match. But first, a quick recap of last round. We'll try and make this faster, because the previous attempts we've been taking too long. So round 1 here, this was the one where I didn't have enough time to fully participate. There was only like 40 minutes-ish left in the round when I played, so I didn't have enough time to do all the battles. So here, and my opponent here, my defense performed really well up against him. So we had plenty of wiggle room had I had more clock. His Mon Mothma losing up against Grievous. That's interesting to me. Night Sisters losing up against Grievous. I do this all the time, but I'm guessing it's because he doesn't have relics on his Asajj and he only has a relic 5 DACA. Really, I wouldn't feel comfortable about doing this or he has a relic 3 DACA. I wouldn't be comfortable doing it unless you have a relic 5 DACA. That's where mine's at. I used to try and do it on relic 4, and relic 4 there's a lot of RNG to it. Troopers up against Qui-Gon is a risky thing. I'm not surprised it lost. This I am surprised by, Wampa losing up against Mon Mothma. This might be a mods thing, or relic 3 is just not good enough, or at least not good enough up against a well-modded Mon Mothma. And I do like how my Mon Mothma is modded. And mine's not even that good. There's better ones. Bosk losing up against Grievous. That's probably preloaded turn meter issue. I do respect this, using new characters, even at low gear. Try them out, see what happens. JTR losing up against Hux. That's why I do Hux lead. He does well up against JTR. JTR up against Crew, she would have won. And this isn't even that great of a JTR team, though. Rest of this is fine, using a weak Star Killer squad. I do respect this. Bad Batch. You can just Gear 8's fine. Like, he's not afraid to use it, and even though that team was already beaten up. But he can't clear the fleet. That's why I would have been able to win had I had the clock. Round 2, this is one where I thought my opponent wasn't going to participate, and he showed up with little over an hour left in the match and cleared the board. This was a 6 GL player, and the only reason he's in Kyber 3 is because he doesn't play all the time. I was hoping I'd get a match where he didn't play, because he had already done 2 battles. I thought he was done. Was not the case. He has no issues except for here, Padme up against Mon Mothma. The instinct's right, but I'm guessing he just got stuck in a turn meter train because he quit. And he wins partly because he saved all his good stuff for offense with fleet. His fleet defense was very weak, and had he tried to split them, I think he would have got stuck and I would have won. Round 3 here. This opponent, I believe, one-shot the board, but what I like is you can see my good teams draw out his strong stuff, and that's part of the reason why he didn't have trouble. But I like seeing that, okay, it's not that these teams weren't performing well, it's because they drew out the strong counters. But he gets stuck on fleet, and that's where the victory comes in. We're going to jump into the bracket breakdown. This was another place I got bogged down in with the previous record attempts. We are trying to get done with this fast. So GLs wise, it's kind of all over the place. There's another guy here with 2 Rise and Fiend at the end of the screen. He might be somebody we see in the final round. Pork Bubbles is another guy to pay attention to because he's apparently in the guild I'm in. He's a guy to pay attention to. He's got excellent mods, so I am concerned about him. My opponent, though, also has very good mods. Hacks here. And then there's a couple guys off screen at the end. Let me just show you them at a glance. Covey here and Dr. Victory. They are 6 GL players. And they, I'm guessing, are here because of inconsistent participation, but the sleeping giants things where you wake them up and they could crush you. So we gotta be a little careful, and who knows where, what will happen this round, and we may struggle to win go 3-0 this week, but it's what I'm going to be shooting for. In terms of relic units, we're not even the lowest. There's one player lower than me. In terms of roster depth, though, we have the most Gear 11 plus characters. That's usually the case. And the high end on relics is in the 147, 148 range. One of the guys off screen is 148. Omicrons, most players in that 8 to 11 range, 8 to 12 range. There's a couple strange players. It's actually the 6 GL players. Let me show you them. Again, they're the lightest on the armies. They must be territory war players. Maybe this isn't their game mode. Another reason why they might be Kyber 3 players, despite having the best GLs in the bracket. Mod-wise, there's some people with some pretty huge counts, and we don't even have the best mods in the bracket. Pork Bubbles does. Well, he has the best overall. There's another guy off screen right now, CT555. He has the best top 25. We're actually going to be seeing him in round 2. I'm recording this after round 1's already done, so I know who I'm seeing next round. And you can see Pork Bubbles here with counts. We are very close to each other with our overall mod quality, not too different. He does have better top 25 plus. I have one better than him with 20 plus, and the 15 plus only a 4. Like, we are so close to each other. GLs, let me just show you the guys off screen since there's the Lord Vader counts. There's 4 Lord Vaders in this bracket. The rest of this is all over the place. 3 players without Malgus. We are looking at 4 without Relic Radices. 3 players without Star Killer. 1 does not have a Relic Star Killer. Dashes are kind of all over the place too, and that's interesting. Like, you should still have Dash. Dash is just a good character. You should have Dash. Even if you're not going after Star Killer, just get characters usable. 2 players, only 2 of us, my opponent this round being one of them, with the Savage Omicron. Everyone else does not have it. Although Dashies could throw it on. He's got a Relic Savage. There are 4 players without Maul. A couple players without usable Moff Gideons, which is interesting. He's such an easy character to gear. Actually, let me show you this. There's 4 players here with really weak Moff Gideons, and he is an incredibly easy to gear character. And gear's not even going to be a thing anymore, but just for him, I mean, it's still going to be a thing. We're going to talk more about it in a video. I'm working on getting one out, but this week we spent more time on Afra and some other stuff. With the profundity here, we are looking at half the bracket. 4 of us have the profundity unlocked. My opponent does not have it. Alright, let's jump into the hotbot. Alright, with Hacks here, you can see I've got a lot of advantages from this bird's eye view. He's in a small guild at 200 GP. Clears are low, undersizes are low, so we don't need to be too concerned there. The rest of that we've seen. We're going to just try and move quickly through. I'm just going to say what happens. He doesn't play. We win this by default. And I'm disappointed by that, because I wanted to see some new things on defense, how they were going to show. No Swolo. And like, he has good mods too. Like, right now we're gonna take a glance at his speeds, and they were excellent. All right, so with this, can we jump ahead? Yeah. So Hacks here, he has about. So he's got 1, 2, 3 rows. I did the math earlier and I've already forgotten it. So he's like what was that, 22 characters. His Shock T is the end of the 300 speed characters. I wasn't paying enough attention. He's got a lot. It was like 22 or 27 characters at... So the difference is I threw the Omicron on First Order TIE Pilot, so that Hux team is different. The thinking I had, and the other difference is on the back wall here, I threw my Savage on defense. But actually, let's go back and talk about it. So this change here with the First Order TIE Pilot, the original thinking I had on the Omicron was if you have SLKR, it's a no-brainer, throw it on. I'm not an SLKR player, so for me, putting that Omicron on made less sense, but it does fit the criteria for an Omicron I would put on. It makes a usable team out of a team that isn't there. Technically, that's more with Phasma. Hux is arguably usable, like he got a hold last week, but I wanted to see if it's going to boost this squad up enough where it becomes... It does something, because it really hasn't done much in a very long time, and it's mostly filler. So if it can elevate that squad or a similar squad to no longer being filler and actually doing something, that is going to be great for me. But there's a number of changes on the way. We're moving hard towards Afra, and I'm almost done farming Bosch. I think I've got 15 shards left, and at that point, I'm basically ready to unlock Jabba. We might slow play it a little bit, maybe get a little head on, maybe use some relics in other places, because like Sith Trooper here, I would love to take the relics instead, but we'll see. We got a couple days to figure out how we're going to play it. So the back wall, there's Savage and Traya. I wanted to do it for a week without the Traya Ami and just see things. But even in this match, I wish I had Savage for offense. I've really been enjoying what Savage brings. I'd also love to relic up another Rogue One character to pair with Radis. But the reason I don't really want to do it is I expect we get like Saw. Alright, so we got CLS, JML, Malgus, Geos. That's going to be a tough choice for me. We'll talk more about it later. Night Sisters, Mon Mothma, Qui-Gon, and something I already forgot to stop. It's an easy thing. So, we're jumping in this, alright. So Qui-Gon here, we're just doing my Night Sisters. This is my favorite thing to do. It is not without risk, and this match, we actually see a version of everything that could go wrong. So you see the AoE doing really well. Well, there's no cam, so it's not everything that can go wrong, but a lot of the things. And I've gotten pretty good at doing this, but you'll see what happens. So we're doing okay. We're building up our stacks. Things are a little scary. We're getting hit by stuns. I deliberated, do I want to heal or do I want to keep going? I decided to keep attacking and not heal. We bring some bodies back. But we're still doing okay, still getting our stacks, still making progress. We survive an AoE. Surviving an AoE means we're getting close to taking out Qui-Gon, but the issue was that AoE still did some good damage, so we're not quite there. Usually, right around this 3-minute mark, between 2 and 3 minutes, that's where I'm okay taking out Qui-Gon. But they're still doing some serious damage, so I don't really feel like I'm there yet. It's just when the hits start turning into tickles on Daka is where I feel comfortable. But I'm taking actual damage, and that wasn't Anakin hitting me at first. So And now the bad part happens. This is the other thing that I don't like. What could go wrong that does is we get hit by an AoE. I bring back some bodies, but we can't heal because we have the Dispel and I'm on cooldowns on Talia. So I'm trying to decide what to do. We got stealth. I'm trying to survive. We're doing okay. I just need like another turn. You know what? I should have done the mass assist. And then that happens. So didn't quite get all the RNG I needed. Not a counter without risk, but one that I've got like a 85-90% win rate. Somewhere in that range. Oh, this match. So I did this last week. I know this works. But pay attention to the clock. You're going to see that I pause this at one point because I have to deal with dogs. And I stop playing it. So there's only a couple AoEs here that we need to be worried about. And the AoEs are the only threats for triggering, for getting a situation where we could lose Swolo. The rest of this is working fine. What is nice about JTR is that the healing immunity is undispellable, which makes controlling SWGOH much easier. So this is going fine, but right in a minute I'm about to pause this and we're going to see a time jump. Or maybe it already happened. Yeah. So we're working on it. Lose a couple bodies. There's, I guess it was just like a minute. I didn't went fast enough. But yeah, so we lost like a minute when I had to step away. But it was a critical minute. So we're working on this. We take out SWGOH where we're about to. We eliminate him here. Now we got a little under a minute and a half to work on Malgus. Landing the healing immunity, we got everything we need. We don't need to worry about the drain lives. We're just putting everyone under stealth, letting Swolo tank so we can stay focused. I don't want to do auto because R2 is going to put Swolo under stealth if I leave R2 to make the choice. He's going to put the foresight onto JTR, so I'm like toggling it on and off. I could have done it earlier. You can see me going back and forth between it, just kind of paying attention to the cooldowns, hoping I get a chance. Really, I should have stayed on auto because he was under, he had fear. You can see we're getting closer and closer and closer, and we run out of time. And that little bit of time we stepped away was the difference. We would have, another 10-15 seconds, we probably would have taken him out. But it's fine. We can clean that up. Not a big deal. And I think we're going to jump ahead because I think I spend a lot of time thinking about what I want to do because I'm trying to make a decision. Because what I don't like to do up against these weaker squads is use good stuff. I like to punch up, not punch down with my roster. Which things get sloppy when I play that way, but it's a lot more fun. Let me find when I start playing because I might take a minute or two to figure this out. Alright, we are here with Wampa up against Mon Mothma. This is me just thinking about, okay, what are all the different things I can take up against this Mon Mothma squad? Even though it looks, it's only gear 12 for the most part, This guy has a well-modded roster, and they were probably going to cause some problems regardless. Wampa eliminates any concern. The only reason I wanted to second guess it is we don't know what's on the back wall, or we didn't prior to attacking. I checked while this was going on, and he has a weak back wall, so I was fine using it. But I do like using Wampa sometimes in a couple scenarios for cleaning up a GL or two. Like he'll like he beats Sith Eternal Emperor, he'll clean up a JMK. Like there's certain scenarios where I want to have Wampa available. But we're fine. So we do that quick. Now we gotta determine how I want to deal with the Night Sisters, and I don't even remember what I did. Because I know I didn't do troopers, so if I don't do troopers, what did I do? Oh, yeah, this is what I did. This, I shouldn't have done this, because I took my Jango. I forgot that I like to use Jango with Maul, and I should have done that. It's just, the problem as we get all these new characters is some of these stranger counters that I like to do, the teams become too good. Like before Starkiller, I would have used Palpatine and Thrawn. It would have handled it fine. Before a lot of these other changes, I would have used Traya. Like any weaker squad, like Troopers, I would use, except I want to use Troopers up against his Geos. So I was like, okay, like I wasn't gonna gas solo because I want to try gas up against Malgus. And so I bring in bounty hunters, but I forgot that I like to keep my Jango for Maul, which I will regret later. And what's nice here is Jango prevents revives, and he gives the payout gives bounty hunter resolves to everyone to make them more survivable, so everything's fine and it works good, but I would have liked to have used something weaker. Now we gotta clean this up, and let me jump ahead, because maybe we paused it. No, we're jumping ahead. Yeah, alright. So we're just use a bunch of Empire nonsense to do it. Thrawn to control him with Fracture. Got a couple tanks to draw out attacks. We're not going to do Probe Droid because what I need is some damage, and TIE Fighter Pilot will do it. And I'm glad I brought in that Relic character because you'll see the amount of damage we're doing, even though he's in the red. Like, it still takes a while to take him out. So we got some control here. We got plenty of things going on. But even with everything going on, it's just, he takes a lot of hits. You saw me pause for a moment trying to decide with Thrawn, do I give him speed up or do I do the turn meter thing? And I decided to give him speed up because he's the only other. I didn't bring enough damage, and I was like, all right, well, let's do a basic hit. He had no turn meter at the time; it wasn't a big deal. And this is me refusing to use something good, so we're just keep trying things. What I do figure it out eventually of what we can do in the future. Yeah, let me move my head out of the way. As you see me obsess over my roster and just try and find some sort of nonsense to use. So throwing my Geos are junk. Like without any relics on them, they're like this perfectly good for Watt, but it's not enough for for this. I think, like, part of the thing is we just don't have enough damage to deal with Barris. Her Zeta's causing issues. So I start going after her, but I know that going after her is going to trigger Anakin, but I don't see us getting through Anakin with Barris still alive. So I start attacking her and just hope we can take her out. What I should have done is gone back to Anakin and land the ability block before trying to take her out. And now we quit because there's no way to win anymore. Now I'm going to try and solo it because I don't want to use anything good. And they don't have a leader. So, okay, no leader ability, what can we do? But it's the same issue where with Barris we need to eliminate her, and once we get past the protection we get to a point where we're not really doing what we need to do. Yeah, and then Anakin gets some good timing and takes out my nest. We'll get this back on track in a moment, but it's... Did I even do this? I don't... Yeah, I do think that we're going to jump ahead. As now. Yeah, this was... Actually, we're going to show this. This was foolish. Or was it not foolish? Was this the one that worked? Maybe this did work. Yeah. Okay, I remember that. I remember what happens now. Yeah, so I'm going back and forth. Do I want the tank? Or do I want probe droid because I like the target lock synergy, and I go with the tank. Partly because of the Zeta on L3. It's kind of a dumb Zeta, but it technically helps. Except it helps other droids. It doesn't really help her. But you can see Sorty's lead is making us pretty tanky, and we're doing a lot of damage with T3M4 there. So it crushes and does well, and we will be doing that in the future. Not leading Qui-Gon, but that might be one of our more regular cleanup squads, because they're not really good for too much else, as other characters are pulled in other directions. So we got Iden, Tarkin, and I think it was a Dash team at the bottom. Now we're going to go deal with some real stuff. This is something that I think I may have attempted in Territory Wars, but I don't know if I've attempted this in Grand Arena. Maybe when Malgus was real new, but this isn't something I typically do. And if we did do it before, we had better datacrons to bring with them. And what we're basically going to see is either my mods aren't right or my relics aren't right, because this is not going to be great for me. Also, this is one that I need to educate myself better on too, of like kill order and priorities. You can see they get through my protection real quick. Go after Fallen to start. Malgus gets taunt back up. At least there's no Malik to worry about. Now Talon's outside of is no longer under stealth. So we get rid of the taunt. Sacrifice happens. We do an AoE, clear the stealth. Lose our Rex. And then I did go after Talon's just easier to take out, so I'm going to try and eliminate her. This is going very poorly for me. But this is a match that I usually bring JMK up against. But the JML that he has is a JML squad where I think I would lose a mirror. So I wanted to bring JMK up against his JML. We at least eliminated the Talon, so he's not going to have a stat boost in the next match. So this is standard stuff. We're not going to talk about this one. I'm going to talk about other stuff. We got more nonsense to talk about. I'm kind of recording this a little late because I was just so distracted with the news day. This is a really weird and fun news day. But really, it's like I don't even want to get into that. I want to talk about DC and the James Gunn choices, and like it's hard to second guess James Gunn. I don't know if his tone is going to be right for the DC universe in general, but it's more just this ongoing chaos at DC. We talked about it in the last video with Henry Cavill, and just it's very quick, all this information coming out. So where he becomes Superman again, then he's gone, and now today he's doing Warhammer, which I'm not surprised by at all. He's like a famous Warhammer nerd. But it's I liked him. I've liked him in Witcher and Superman, but I guess where do I want to take my thoughts on this? Do I want to go down the Superman rabbit hole, or do I want to go down like what DC stories should they be doing? It's just I guess we should talk about this a little bit. So I don't do the cooldown thing. I just go after JML. We can't target. I don't want to we can't take anybody out until we can target someone other than JML. So I throw the healing immunity on Jedi Knight Revan so I can take him out quickly, because all these other guys are going to get sacrifice save by JKR. So I want to eliminate him. So we do that very quickly from the start. Now we're focusing on the rest of the board. I'm throwing the damage immunity on Kenobi so that he can tank better. Because by the time we have the ultimate, we're going to have cooldowns done on Cat. So we didn't need to do it there. Hermit Yoda's super annoying, so while he's not under stealth, just go after him, eliminate old Ben, and then moving on. So you get the idea. So DC, like, I'm a big comics reader, but growing up, I didn't read. Well, I started off reading a lot of Marvel. Like, I had a subscription to Spider-Man. My brother had a subscription to X Factor. Because you used to, with like your Toy Biz action figures, they had like a subscription you could mail in and get comics. And so that was one of the first things I started out reading. And But very quickly, I shifted away from Marvel, and I didn't get into DC. It was, well, Image Comics was big at the time, so I was reading a bunch of Image nonsense. It's just like terrible stuff. But I also read a lot of Dark Horse. I love Dark Horse. Like, all like the Legends characters. I was reading all that stuff at an age where I could not even process what it is that I was reading. And then I did read a lot of DCs, just I didn't read the main universe. I would read Elseworlds, or I was reading... We should probably talk about this one too. I was reading Vertigo. We'll talk about it. So, yeah, I'm just going after Fallen because she's good and she's going to be easy to take out. Then we're going to eliminate Marauder. Deal with Darth Revan. Just, we're taking him out piece by piece. We brought in a few different characters this time. The big difference is really Shakti, because she can dispel. And we got Mace instead of other tanks. And Mace was... I don't know. I think Old Ben would have... Well, Old Ben I want to use... We're not even going to use him, so it doesn't matter. It's fine. So, I'm kind of surprised I never read Sandman. Other than like a couple single issues. Because I was reading like Animal Man, Shade the Changing Man, Preacher, Swamp Thing, Hellblazer. Like, I was reading a lot of stuff. And somehow I just never read, like, meaningfully read Sandman, even though I read like some books of magic. It's kind of perplexing to me why I did it. That's more of my exposure, because what I really didn't like was I'm not a Jeff Johns fan. Like, I never liked that take on the DC characters and like his Justice League approach. It wasn't interesting to me. So what I did really like I loved like Mark Waid and Kingdom Come. I loved Kingdom Come. I read that over and over again. That was like the heyday of Alex Ross, where I was reading a lot of Alex Ross in general, where like Marvel's Uncle Sam, like there's just really good stuff that was happening at that time. Alright, so now we're gonna use my Maul, and probably should have just done my Star Killer. But Maul I knew would have worked if my Jango was there. And now you see me pause for a moment because I'm like, oh crap, I don't have Jango. So I decided to do it anyway instead of changing directions, and just too much doesn't work. So right now I'm just saying, okay, do I do the AoE or should I just go for the attacks? And I'm like, I decided to risk it, because I want that extra stack before I start doing the ability. Maybe I should have just basicked it. But if I basicked it, Canderous wouldn't have got turn meter. So I risk it, but Armor can't take... Armor's gear 12. She can't tank those hits. With Jango, like, Jango would have been around. Even if we would have lost Jango, the Bounty Hunter's Resolve would have brought him back. Yeah. So, like, Jango, we win it. Without Jango, we lose it. Yeah, so really the version of the DC universe I like is just the Bruce Timm Paul Dini like animated stuff. I love the animated stuff. What I want from James Gunn is I want a real Metropolis. Like Metropolis is supposed to be as visually stunning as Gotham, the light to Gotham's dark. It's supposed to be that iconic, and we have not seen that other than in the animated series. And that's where my love of Clancy Brown really started. Clancy Brown, who is the voice of Savage, he was the voice of Lex Luthor, and he's my Lex. Such a good Lex Luthor. It's like an unheralded performance, because like we hear all about, especially like the Batman voice actors. We get the Mark Hamills, the Kevin Conroys, but that series, it also had like Roddy McDowall as the Mad Hatter. And he was Caesar in the original Planet of the Apes movies. There was Malcolm McDowell a voice? I can't remember. I feel like Malcolm McDowell was in the animated series too. I should look that up. I can't remember offhand. This worked great, but Sana is supposed to be very good against Empire, and this was a nonsense Empire squad, so I was happy to see it work well. But I didn't really have a lot of doubts about it. I'm just happy to see it. It does encourage me to want to throw relics on my Stormtrooper Hunt. You see how quickly he's losing stealth. So we're going up against a sorted team here. I want to test out the Hutt Cartel, because I love the Hutt Cartel and they are fun. But it goes very poorly. So we forfeit. Oh yeah, this is where we're gonna dash Hondo this, which actually something to be careful about, because I have used Sortie to counter dash before, so that's something I definitely forgot about when I made this decision. But I guess Hondo wasn't around when that had happened. Whatever. Yeah, so with James Gunn, it's just, I really like the Suicide Squad. Like, I like his stuff. And I wonder if he and I really like Peacemaker. Peacemaker is fantastic. And I want, what I think might be good for James Gunn, and why I'm very optimistic about what he'll do, is he's not afraid to lean into the weird stuff. Like doing Starro was great. I like in Peacemaker, he's talking about Batmite. Like Batmite exists in that universe. And I want, like Marvel's a little afraid to lean into their weird characters, and DC isn't. Like I want Mr. Mxyzptlk. Like I want the weird stuff. Like, go into that. And also, it's time for Brainiac. I can't believe we've had this many portrayals of Superman without Brainiac on the screen. That's ridiculous. Brainiac is a very interesting one. Like, the potential there is absurd. But we're running out of video for me to ramble on, so I want to get on to some topics here. One, I want to rant about Birds of Prey, partly because, like, I really like Birds of Prey. I think it's a good movie. The problem with it is the fight choreography it's pretty awful. It's like the amusement park, like marquee fight sequence at the end of the movie is like distractingly bad. It completely detracts from everything that's going on, and I think the rest of the movie is pretty solid. And I hope to see more of it. And I'm glad. Like, I was afraid we weren't going to see Margot Robbie as Harley again, 'cause she had quotes out there in the past where she sounded like she was done with the character, but she's now expressed interest to do the character again. I think that's great. Like, I think she is as perfectly cast in that role as we've seen any person portray a comic character. That's like Patrick Stewart, Professor X levels, like Robert Downey Jr., Iron Man levels of perfect casting. So I'm glad she might come back, but that they got to get a different fight choreographer for that stuff. The police station, that was much better. That was done well, but the roller skating and stuff with jumping over, it was you could like see, it was so slow paced where you could like see the choreography. It just felt like people going through motions. Yeah, now we're in the fleet stuff. Really like the DC main superheroes that I've read, other than Superman, Batman, because like I've read a lot of them. But I've read like the Kurt Busiek Aquaman stuff. That was very good. I like Kurt. I'm a big Kurt fan. And some Flash stuff, but that's the extent of it. Not really. I've read plenty of like single things, but as far as like a deep read, really the big thing is it just shows like you have to have comic fans make this stuff, because you see it with a lot of the DC stuff where they have a cynical attitude towards comics, where it's just like, this stuff doesn't matter. This is kid stuff. And you see the same thing largely with like Sony, and especially when like Fox was running X-Men and Fantastic Four. It's just, when you have that kind of attitude where the comics are a joke or don't matter, then you throw out everything that fans liked about the source material to begin with, and then you have what? It's like people portraying a name. Like it doesn't mean anything then. Like the when people think that comics are just like fighting, like that's not what they are. And that kind of that's how you get like the first Wolverine movie. That movie is just offensive. That's how you get like the Daredevil movie and that Catwoman nonsense. Although I think that Batman, or not that Batman, the Wolverine movie irritated me so much more than that Catwoman movie. Because that Catwoman movie was like, it was just so bizarre. It was like so detached from anything. It didn't feel like you were watching a comic book movie. It was something else. Yeah, so this is where this match ends up. He doesn't attack. It's a win by default. It's fine. The rest of this week will probably be far tougher, including the next round. My next opponent will be CT555. And we will wrap it up there. We're working on a few different videos. We'll see which one I get out first. I think there's a methods. The gear update video is the one I'm making priority. I wanted to get out a little earlier, but we shifted over to Afro when that announcement occurred. So maybe we'll probably wrap it up this weekend, if not sooner. I guess it is already the weekend, so it'll be this weekend. But be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This is still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.